On your feet! Get them going!
Whoops. It looks like I need to start taking some brain power, memory, and focus. I don't even know where this came from. It's just on my desk. Bilbo Beloa. Phosphatidylserine. Alpha GPC boosts mental alertness, improves circulation, natural and safe non-stimulant. I can't even, these words are so tiny. Has this thing been opened? Oh, it has been opened. Let's try an experiment. Here we go. Says Tina. Yes. I've already put black minerals. Oh, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Cross Examinations Live. I'm your host, Mike S. Miller, blah, blah, blah. Black minerals. You ever see black water? This is the minerals, this fulvic minerals, volcanic minerals. I already put that in my coffee. So now I'm going to take some brain. I haven't eaten anything, so this is probably a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a lot
what do I do to myself? What am I doing to myself? Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? This is Mike. Welcome to Cross Examinations. I already said that. Brain power pill, obviously not working. Memory, just not working. Take your hot weather back, please. Hot weather? It is gorgeous here. I don't even have the AC on right now. It's just, I have the windows open, and it is just another beautiful day in San Diego. What are you going to do? Hey, King Bob, Justin, the Unicornus. Tina T. Where's the girls? I know, not obviously you're here, Tina. I mean, you know, the girls. Where's our peoples? It's like 100 degrees here. Ooh, why would you live somewhere like that? I ate a bomb pop. Is it the red, white, and blue popsicle? The chocolate fudge and banana one. Oh, that's a missile pop, right? The red, white, and blue ones with the striations on the side. Those nipple pop. I might have to go get water. I'm not sure this is Where are those Lester girls at? Exactly. Some rain would be nice. Well, don't pee on my head and tell me that it's raining. You know what that is? That is metaphoric language. It's a colloquialism. It's not literally suggesting that someone pee on your head. See, sometimes words don't mean words. I had a little tiff with objective ethics. Oh my gosh. Don't show me those rabbits with the freaking tentacles on their faces. Those are disgusting. You seen these? It's like an outbreak in Colorado of rabbits with weird crap growing out of their... It's so gross. This one looks like little tufts of fur, but they have them, they literally look like flesh tentacles. It's gross. No, don't post that stuff in the Discord. King Bob. So I made a little logical, rhetorical, because we're having a tete-a-tete about slavery again. And I said, no one owns anyone. No one ever did. Or something to that effect. It's logical rhetoric. Right? Like, well, I won't give you the example first. Objective ethic comes out, starts calling me a liar. Because the two things I said cannot be true. Because I said people owned one another, which I'm not freaking retarded. Of course, I know people own each other. When I'm saying something that doesn't make sense with something I've said 100 times already,
While healing it.
Okay, without me explaining it, and you can't do this if you're in the Discord and you read it. Does anyone understand what I mean when I say no one owns anyone, no one ever did? Or no one ever has? I know it comes a little out of the blue. It's like, and I'll give you guys a second, but Tina, I watched part of one of them. I haven't had time to watch this. I'm a busy guy, but I tried. I understand, Tina says. Justin says, ironically, the regulated slavery does more for slaves than the rest of the unregulated slave world. What? You said you own your kids? Okay. Obviously, logical rhetoric doesn't work on Corpse Grinder.
No.
Right. I've said that people own each other a billion times. So if I, out of the blue, say something like, no one owns anyone, no one ever did, do you really think I'm holding the do you think I'm switching positions or something? Or do you think maybe I have something a little deeper in meaning, i.e. I'm using rhetoric, not literal meanings of words? You guys, oh man. It's so funny that the people who don't understand what I'm saying are the so-called enlightened atheists. What if I wanted to see that guy? Why is Mike so special? Wait, what? Oh, I wanted you to see that guy. I read it as sarcasm. I mean, to a little bit of a degree. Mike has the moral or legal responsibility for his kids, a.k.a. he owns them. As much as anyone has ever owned anyone. Right?
Nice.
Okay, so I'll just let you guys... I will explain. You know how Andrew Wilson?
Oh, nice.
Everyone here believes you have rights, right? Everyone believes you have rights. You believe you have rights. You believe you have rights. You there. You over there. You believe you have rights. Andrew Wilson makes the argument.
Not yet.
And it is a logical, rhetorical argument. No one has rights. No one has rights. Rights don't exist. Rights are imaginary. Why is my screen like this? There we go. Rights are what the powerful people above you allow you to do.
It really does.
Right? They tell us we have rights. Right. You understand the concept that is being expressed here, right? You have the right to do whatever the powerful people above you allow you to do. Those aren't rights. That's might makes right. Might makes rights. That's might makes rights. Right? Might doesn't make right as in right and wrong. Might makes rights as in what you are allowed to do and what the government is not allowed to do to you. Blah, blah, blah. In the same sense, no one can own another human being because a human being has the free agency to escape that ownership. Now, I grant you, sometimes making that escape, sometimes making that escape is, kids run away all the time. Kids run away and are never seen again. All the time. Slaves ran away and were never captured again. Happened all throughout history. That was a choice they made, right? They said, I'm not going to be a slave anymore. And I care more about my ability to make my own decisions in my own life than I care about abandoning my friends, maybe even my family. I didn't say it's a great choice. It's a crappy choice. And sometimes that choice means if you get caught, you get tortured. Sometimes that means you get killed. But that doesn't negate the fact that you have the choice to leave. It's a terrible option. Your options aren't great. I mean, unless you're the slave who makes it someplace and is just free for the rest of your life, then bada bing, bada boom. You had a choice. You didn't have to be a slave. You could have ran away. I think that's probably what
Like,
Kanye was
like,
saying
you lose your
when he
own-
said
you
that
should just go back to
that
Stalin,
slavery is a choice.
like,
But
your chef.
because of that reality that we each of us as human beings has free agency to make those kinds of decisions,
Yeah.
as hard as those decisions might be, that means that by circumstance of reality, you cannot lay hold to ownership of someone. In fact, if you think about it, you can't really own anything. Ownership in the sense that no one can take this away from me. You can't really own it because it's the same thing. It's the right of ownership. But do rights exist? No. Somebody comes along here and puts a gun to my head and takes all my stuff. I do not have the right to ownership of anything that I own, right? The only thing you can own is Bitcoin. Because someone can put a gun to your head. Someone can tie you up and torture you. And as long as you are unwilling to give them your secret seed, your seed phrase, they cannot take away your Bitcoin. How do you like them apples? Apple. For example. So do you understand the rhetoric I was using when I said no one owns anyone, no one ever did? In the same sense, no one has any rights. In the same sense, you want slavery to be okay so bad? No, you guys can't even make this argument. You guys can't make this argument. I've asked Objective Ethics over and over and over again to make an argument against my argument. He can't, and he won't. All he does is do what you're doing right there. Slavery bad. Slavery bad. Tell me why, outside of the Christian ethics that decided slavery was bad, slavery is bad. You can't. Well, you can't own other people. Yes, you can. You own your children. And it's the exact same thing, although there's a time limit in this country. There wasn't a time in ancient Rome. In ancient Rome, all the functional, practical realities of ownership of another human being, a father. Mother didn't have that. A father had all of the ownership rights over his child for all of his life. If the child wanted to do something independently, like say, go start a business, get married, the child was not allowed to do anything that the father didn't agree to and allow him to do, because he maintained his ownership rights over his. And they don't use the word ownership. I'm saying it is a practical reality of every aspect of ownership was functionally the same. I even grokked this. I'm like, what's the difference? And they're saying, well, this is the father's right. And I'm like, this is the slave owner's right. I'm like, those are the same freaking thing. You're just saying one is paternal and one is master slave. The descriptions of ownership between what the father could do and what a slave owner could do are, by all practical means, identical. So the argument isn't owning someone is bad. If ownership has any meaning, the meaning has to have a definition. The definition is identical between father and child and master and slave. And none of you are arguing that it's not. Except for, when he turns 18. I'm like, yeah, obviously. And this is an appeal to freaking emotion, dude. This is an appeal to emotion. Nuance is lost on them, clearly. You know why? You know why the nuance is lost on them? Because William Wilberforce and his gaggle of Christian, deeply, deeply religious Christians read the book of Philemon, read the Gospels, came to the conclusion that God doesn't want us holding each other as slaves. That's what William Wilberforce read, that came to the conclusion. Sure, it's not verbatim in the Bible, but he came to that conclusion. He got his other Christian friends in the abolitionist movement Bunch of Christians, devout, faithful men reading stuff out of the Bible and coming to this conclusion that slavery is bad. We should stop. And then him and his friends convinced the government of the most powerful empire in the world. We should stop. And because of these Christian men and centuries, how many centuries is it? A couple centuries of spreading that message, that Christian message, the Christian ideal, they spread it so far and wide in the Western world that it became axiomatic. But it wasn't before that. It wasn't before these Christian men derived this belief from the Bible that your belief now, wow, corpse grinder, you think it is axiomatic. It wasn't axiomatic for all of mankind, for the entirety of mankind, until these Christian men. It's not delusional. It's history. Do you not know who William Wilberforce is? Corpse grinder? I would suggest you go read a history book about William Wilberforce. Go watch a video. There's some good videos on him on YouTube. And you will understand that the reason you think slavery is bad, that's your whole argument. Slavery is bad. Everyone knows it. That's your argument, right? That's your entire argument. Slavery is bad. Everyone knows it. Your argument comes from people reading the Bible. And then you want to go back and say, but the Bible doesn't say slavery is bad. Owning people is bad. See, that's all you have. That's your whole argument. And you don't realize you're so seeped in Judeo-Christian culture that you don't understand where you think this idea of morality, this morality play comes from. You keep just repeating the same thing. You're not making any kind of an argument, corpse grinder. Do you not understand? Are you incapable? He's incapable. Devil's advocate then. Who said slavery is bad? William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce. And, his other Christian abolitionist friends. Were some abolitionists not Christian? Yes, some abolitionists were not Christian. However, they weren't the ones that got the British government to spend what would equate to millions and millions of dollars and blood and lives abolishing the African slave trade. Right? People in Africa don't think it's bad. Slave trade is alive and well there. True. Yeah, see, it's the Western world, right? It's the Christian Western world that thinks slavery is bad. Corpse grinder can't wrap his head around that. Doesn't matter what we say, Mike. You have already made up your mind that you're right. You're not making an argument about why slavery is bad. I agree that slavery is bad. Right? I agree. But slavery in the context of how we frame it in the Western world, chattel slavery, I believe it's called, right? It's not the very base concept of the ownership of another human being. That in and of itself, again, exact same definition as parenthood. No. You think slavery is good. I don't think it's good or bad. You can be a good parent, and you can be a terrible parent. You can be a good slave master. You can be a terrible slave master. You're not making an argument for why slavery is bad outside of the Judeo-Christian morality in which you were raised. Big problem here, conflating chattel slavery with indentured slavery. Yeah. I'm not 100% on the, what do you call it? The nuances of chattel slavery. See, you won't deal with the base, which is just ownership, right? You won't deal with it because you know you have no argument. The fact that you go back and forth and you're changing the topic and you're using emotional arguments, Corpse Grinder, I want you to stop and think for a reason. Because you are doing that, it is evidence that you actually have no argument. You have no argument. If you had one, you'd have made it, right? Objective ethics, same thing in the Discord. If he had an argument, he would have made it. He has not made it. And I've asked him numerous times. I ask all you guys numerous times. You can't make an argument. And you're like, no, it's not like give me any functional difference outside of time limit, because that's a American. Actually, I mean it's in a lot of the world, but like I said, in ancient Rome, that there was no time limit. A father technically, functionally owned his children until he emancipated them, or until they died. Right? You can emancipate your daughter by essentially selling your daughter to someone for marriage, which is functionally what they did. Or you could legally emancipate your son so that he could do whatever he wanted without having to ask your permission. However, that was rare. It was very rare that sons were emancipated. It's just funny, dude. It's funny that you can't actually make an argument. So you keep changing the subject and you keep pleading to emotion. I feel like these people would fail the breakfast question. What's the breakfast question? We still have indentured slavery today. What do you think? Community services, jail time. See, there's a difference between slavery and imprisonment. You can take someone's freedom away and they can't run away if you lock them in a cell. Indentured slavery to the state for a period of time. Yeah, I mean, really, that is true. You know, it is getting kind of warm in here. Micah, do you want to turn the AC on? All right, I'm going to close windows. This is my window closing stick. It's actually a bow that my son made out of a fig shoot. Actually works. Probably a 40-pound bow. Mike, just to clarify for Corpse, are you against kidnapping people and forcing them to work for you? Yes, I am against that. Loosh Farmer. This guy defends medieval pedophilia. What guy? Where? Who are you talking about? And do you have evidence of this? Corpse, if you love God, you'll free them. We have zero need for indentured slavery in 2025. It's all over the world, man. It's all over the world. I mean, not the Western world. Although it is in the Western world, it's just underground. It's like black market stuff. Freedom is kind of an illusion. I mean, how deep you want to get, Justin? We could go down that rabbit hole for real quick. Oh, fig trees make excellent bows. I did that for scouts a long time ago. Yeah, I had my first edible fig today. All July and so far half of August, all of our figs, they only grew about this big, dried up, and fell off the tree. I go out today and there's one that's about this big, and I'm like, what? And I squeezed it, and it was a little soft. It wasn't like the big juicy fig, but I plucked up and I ripped. I'm like, this is an edible fig. I know it's not carnivore, but it was a first. 8/14, halfway through August to get to my first edible fig. I would argue that working as an employee today is no different than being a skilled slave in ancient Greece or Rome. I think you have... Oh, okay, here we go with Andrew Wilson. I was going to say I think you have more rights, but again, your rights are determined by... You all right? Where did you get that insane idea, you brain in a vat? Hey, be nice. Be nice. You would be correct. I mean, it's close to correct, but I'm not entirely sure. You know what? Let's look it up. Let's see what ancient Roman slaves. What rights and protections did slaves have in ancient Rome? In ancient Rome, slaves had very limited rights and protections as they were considered property rather than legal persons. However, some legal and social mechanisms provided minimal safeguards, varying by period, context, and whims of their owners. Here's a concise overview. Legal status. Slaves were property under Roman law, lacking legal personhood. They could not own property, marry legally, or represent themselves in court. Any rights they... You know what that almost sounds like? That sounds very close to pre-1963 Civil Rights Act for Asians. Except for the marry legally part. Wow. Were we slaves? Any rights they had were derived from their owner's will or state regulations, not inherent legal protections. 2. Limited legal protections. Lex Patronia prohibited owners from forcing slaves to fight wild beasts in the arena. Without a magistrate's approval, offering some protection against extreme cruelty. Claudian edict freed sick or elderly slaves abandoned by their owners, granting them a limited form of citizenship. So when you were too old, when you were retirement age, and you were too old to actually be of any use, and your owner no longer wanted to feed or house you because essentially you aged out of the job, you got your freedom and citizenship. That's very interesting. Lex Aila Sentia, regulated manumission, setting conditions for slaves to be freed, such as a minimum age of 20 for the owner and 30 for the slave, ensuring some oversight of the process. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Owners could be prosecuted for extreme cruelty, i.e. murder or excessive torture. Though enforcement was inconsistent and rare, as slaves were seen as property. Manumission. Okay, explanation of manumission. Slaves could be freed by their owners through manumission, formal or informal. Freed slaves gained limited citizenship, including the right to marry and, in some cases, vote, though they often remain tied to their former owners as clients or dependents. That's interesting. Manumission was common, especially for skilled or favored slaves, but it was not a right, purely at the owner's discretion. Social and practical protections. Peculium. Slaves could manage a peculium, a fund of money or property, which they could use to buy their freedom or conduct business, though it legally belonged to the owner. That sounds just like their sons. Household roles. Slaves in urban households, tutors, accountants, or domestic servants often had better treatment than those in rural or industrial settings, mines or plantations, where conditions were brutal. In other words, you could have a good job or you can have a crap job. Accountants, tutors. Religious and cultural practices. Some slaves could participate in religious festivals, e.g. Saturnalia, where the roles were temporarily reversed. That's interesting. Offering brief social relief, though not a legal protection. Patronage. Freed slaves often maintained a relationship with their former owners. How weird. Who might provide economic or social support in exchange for loyalty. See, this is the thing, right? Reading through protection under abuse. Let me finish this real quick. Under later emperors, laws restricted certain abuses. For example, Hadrian banned the killing of slaves without judicial approval, and Antonius Pius allowed slaves to seek refuge at temples or statues of the emperor if mistreated, potentially leading to their sale to a new owner. These protections were limited as enforcement depended on the state's willingness to intervene, which was rare.
Wait, why can I move?
Slave marriages were not legally recognized, but some owners allowed stable family units to maintain morale or loyalty. However, families could be separated at the owner's discretion.
Yeah, I'm going up.
Context and limitations. Protections were minimal and often unenforced, as slaves were primarily economic assets. Cruelty was common, especially in harsher settings like mines or large estates. The treatment of slaves varied widely based on their role or owner and region. Urban slaves or those in imperial households often had better conditions than rural or low-skilled slaves. Roman law prioritized the owner's rights. The slaves had no direct recourse to challenge mistreatment unless a third party, like a magistrate, intervened. All right. Does that sound... See, here's the problem with the slavery argument in the modern Western world, is that a lot of idiots think that America invented slavery. Right? It's...
No, they're not.
They act as if slavery didn't exist before America.
Why isn't she
And
now?
again, the slavery market...
Right now, such a good
Okay, the African slave trade market would have been completely condemned biblically. And honestly, with the horrible, harsh treatment in the black slave market, I'm not entirely sure William Wilberforce ever would have been a thing, because it was such bad treatment, and it was all so against what the Bible teaches. Like all of it. The entire black slave market was completely against what the Bible teaches. All the people involved would have been executed under the biblical law. All of them.
Oh my gosh.
The ones who stole the people, the ones who bought the people, the ones who sold the people. All of those people, according to Leviticus, should be put to death. So the entire African slave trade. But that's not the entirety of how slaves have been treated throughout the history. All right, I just read that to you, how in Rome, oftentimes slaves would be given their freedom and they would still be part of the household, or they would still be financially supported by their previous owners. It's not a constant. You can't just say no. What is no? No. Horse grinder is really bad at this. What did without lies suggest? Also, yeah, what unfortunately what the American, or not the American, but the African slave trade did is it created a very racial
back up.
it created a huge racial problem in the Americas. I would say America, but okay. Someone said, I said 4 to 6% came to America. I didn't say 46. 4 to 6% of the African slave trade. And again, if you consider that 60% went to the Ottoman Empire, it really narrows the African slave trade down to about 1.5% of the African slave trade came to America. 1.5 to 2% came to America. That's the United States. The rest went to South America, Central America, and the Caribbeans. None of that is America. I just want to let you know. And you think racism is bad here? Racism is bad in the
So bunched up.
below the border. Below the border, racism bad. And I think that had a lot to do with the whole African slave trade. I don't think they had so much racism like in Europe and stuff because they weren't selling African slaves. Well, I don't know, were they? Maybe they were. I know the Ottomans were they stole millions and millions of white slaves and sold them into the Arab nations and stuff. It is what it is. It is what it is. I had a beautiful pineapple growing and the critters got it. Oh, man. Tina T. Your son, Mike.
Oh my
yes, that's my son. I mean Jewish slaves, not Romans. I think Romans were way worse. Yeah, I just wanted to catch up on what actually Romans had rights to do. So it's great that y'all keep telling yourselves that slavery of old is somehow more kind to the people, but then again, y'all are prone to believing fairy tales. What percentage of the African slave trade survived to the New World? Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. 85.6. So 14.4% of those Africans died en route to the New World.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
African slave trade account also for the Ottoman Empire. Made it to the United States. My boy Lister would feel insulted for that brain in a fat joke. Romans were more like what Corpse thinks Jews were like. 12.6. The percentage to the United States, transatlantic only, using the figure of 450,000 out of 12.5 million embarked. 450,000 slaves made it to America in total, which is 3.6% of the African slave trade. Let's see if we add the Ottoman Empire. Well, that can't be right. Times 100. United States combined using the 450 United States total out of 15 million embarked. 3%. Okay, it's not as low as I thought, but it's 3%. It's pretty small. That's pretty small.
What? Why would you talk
it's just funny. I don't mean it to diminish like America's role in this, but no one ever considers America's role in the slave trade was literally 3%. 3%
Can you stop underextending?
of the total African slave trade. United States of America is only responsible for 3%. It's a rounding error. Why don't you guys go complain to Brazil? Right? I mean, holy crap, dude.
In a game. There's no way you can't keep up with me.
It's like we're the big kahuna in the slave trade. It's 3%. 3. How many of you knew that before I just looked it up? I have to agree with freedom being an illusion. Freedom basically boils down to how many options you're allowed. Well, today you have the right to legal pursuit your boss, but do not have the money needed for dragged out 10 years trial. Yeah, that's true. Well, rights are an illusion. Ownership is an illusion.
So what hormones are you
life
taking?
is an illusion. Corpse, the Jews genuinely had to protect and care for their slaves. And here's the difference between a secular law like you might have under Rome and a religious law like you would have under Judaism. Under the religious law, you do and don't do things because you're held to a higher power. Under a secular law, it's like agnosticism. Your only law is don't get caught, right? You won't get persecuted, so you can do it. You won't get prosecuted, so you can do it. This is very much what I was thinking about when I was taking a shower. I think about these things when I'm in the shower. I don't know. Where there is no law does not negate that there is morality. However, if there is no law and there is no morality, there is chaos. I think maybe that's why, was it Ben Franklin or George Washington said that the Constitution was made for a wholly religious people, a religious and faithful people, because it will not suffice for any other. Because in order for us to maintain morality outside of the bounds of the Constitution, outside of the bounds of being able to be prosecuted, like the Wild West. They call it the Wild West because people could go out to places where there was no law. There was no jurisdiction. Did that mean that you could just kill whoever you wanted? I mean, technically speaking, you could kill whoever you wanted and get away with it. But did that make it morally right? And is that the way to sustain a culture? You cannot sustain a culture absent moral law. That is the law that you hold yourself account to, even if there is no governmental law. I think that's what the guy, was it Washington or was it, I forget who it was. It was simple in that if you were alone, the world swallowed you. You had to join a larger. Oh yeah, that was back to what I was saying. It's like, so the Jews would treat their slaves according to the scriptures, right? According to the scriptures, they would try to and obviously there were good Jews and there were bad Jews, but by and large, you had a better case or a better chance of a Jewish slave owner treating you according to the scriptures than you would have a Roman slave owner treating you because they were never prosecuted. It's like speeding. Y'all speed, right? You all speed. None of you don't not go over the speed limit.
Excuse me? I was in the air.
Maybe Tina. Maybe Lady Celtic Moon. I don't know. But everybody speeds, by and large. Why? Because no cop is going to pull you over for doing 5 miles over the speed limit. Most cops won't pull you over for doing 10 miles over the speed limit. And most likely, no judge is going to freaking say, oh, 5 miles over. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty, right? They're not going to care. The law's there, but it's not prosecuted, so people don't really care. If you're doing 90, that's an egregious breaking of the law, and so they'll... But you know what I mean? If there's no prosecution, if there's no jurisdiction, the law is an ass. I believe someone who said that, like Socrates or someone. I don't know. Someone said, who said the law is an ass? I'm not gonna look it up. I don't care that much. Hard to type. Phone acting up middle of using a stationary bag for the first time in months. Breakfast question has to do with the ability to understand a hypothetical. Are you telling me the 1619 project was wrong?
Billy's busted, bro.
What does the 1619 project say? Did they say that America made up slavery? People are so stupid. I can't. People actually think that. Did you know that? People actually think that. Kids on college campuses think that. That's how freaking. I'm not going to say they're dumb. I mean, I did say they were dumb earlier, but that was me being hyperbolic. They're so wrongly educated because that didn't come out of nowhere. These kids are on college campuses and they think this kind of crap. That is just being wrongly educated. America didn't invent slavery, but it did keep it racially specific. The first slaves in America were Irish. And then they were Indian. You had Indian slaves, you had Irish slaves. And then you had African slaves. And the African slaves were the most expensive because they were imports. They were imported, so it was more expensive. And, you lost 14% of your import on the way here, so they had to make up that cost. And so because the black slaves from Africa were so expensive, they had to actually make it illegal because slave owners were breeding their Africans and their Irish slaves together. That's what a mulatto is. For anyone who just thinks a mulatto is someone who's part black, part white, the term mulatto actually comes from breeding Irish and African slaves together, and they were called mulattoes. And they made it illegal because people were breeding their own half-breed black slaves, and it was dropping the price of the African slave. That's all very crazy. It was all very crazy. Well, as a product of West Indies slave trade, I wouldn't exist within it, much less love in a well of Western countries, silver lining and all. Yeah, I mean, look, you still have cavemen in Africa. You still have cavemen and I use the term distinctly because they literally living exactly the same as the cavemen did 5,000 years ago, 4,500 years ago, whatever. You still have cavemen in South Africa. I mean, not South Africa. Africa, South America. You still have cavemen in Asia? The Mongols. The Mongols essentially live, I wouldn't say they were like cavemen, but the Mongols are still living today the exact same way Marco Polo described their nomad life in the 12th century. They have had, no progress. I'm not going to say every Mongol, but there are still nomadic Mongol tribes that live to the T, how Marco Polo described their lives 800 years ago. Zero progress. You go to Africa, lots of places, zero progress. South America, different places, not as much as Africa. But Africa's huge, dude. Africa's like, you could probably fit 4 South Americas in Africa. That's how big Africa is. You don't really notice it on the thing, but it's huge. The racial stuff came from Islam, not America. Well, yeah, they had black slave. They hated blacks, by the way. Muhammad hated blacks. Nobody talks about that. But yeah, I always found it shocking that African people, black people, sold other black people to the slave trade. How can you do that to your own people? Because it's not their own people. See, when you're in a society of people, your tribalism narrows, right? So the Spartans may have hated the Athenians. I don't know. I'm just making a point, right? They're all Greek. The Athenians might have hated the Macedonians. The Macedonians might have hated the Etruscans. They're all the same. Your tribalism narrows. And so you hate these guys, capture them, sell them someplace that'll get them away from, so they can't come back, right? There's no revenge. If you capture some people from your warring tribe and you sell them to someone who's going to take them 5,000 miles away, it's as good as killing them, except it's better because you got money for them. So that's how a lot of the African slave trade was. It's the same as the Greek slave trade and the Chinese slave trade and the friggin' Indian slave trade. Slave trade was everywhere. Everywhere. They were calling Africans left shoulder before American calling? I don't know what that means. Amy showed up. 9 minutes left, Amy. 9 minutes. Corpse runs a makeshift abortion clinic in his basement. His way of fighting the man as well as keeping a steady flow of body parts. Yeah, that's gross, dude. Why would you say that? People ignore that Turks abducted and sold to slavery an insane number of Southern Europeans. Right. Slavs. Yeah, Greeks, Italians, Spanish. I don't think they got up to France. But yeah.
If we get
An insane number. Let's find out how many
they can't heal.
How many
They'll have to aim.
Europeans did the Turks
We just went.
or Ottoman or just Muslim world in general capture and turn into slaves? They loved enslaving beautiful white women. I couldn't tell you why.
Bro, he's
Estimates 1 to 1.25 million Europeans by the Barbary Corsairs.
Miss you.
2 million Poles captured by the Crimean Tatar. Let's get to let's add them all up. There's approximately 3 to 7 million Europeans were enslaved by the Ottoman Empire, Turks, and the broader Muslim world. It's a conservative estimate for 3 to 5 million for the Ottoman period alone.
The domination version of
Lots of slaves. So the Turks, the Ottomans, stole, let's just call it 5 million, since that seems to be the average. 5 million. America had 450,000. 450,000 Africans in America.
What is that?
5 million Europeans by the Ottoman Empire, by the Ottomans and the Turks. I'm kind of pretty sure that's worse. Oh, let's see how many African slaves. How many African slaves did they steal? I'm just going to say steal because they were stolen.
Oh, this is so chopped.
All right, I'm going to wait. Give it a second to. Tribalism is wild in Africa. Tribalism is wild everywhere. Tribalism is the natural state of humanity. I'm not saying it's good. I think tribalism is bad. It's terrible. So I don't join teams. That's why I'm not a Republican. But tribalism is the natural state of humanity. That's why sport people want to tribe up with their sports teams, right? Let's get to the bottom here. Ottoman Empire and the broader Muslim world enslaved approximately 4 to 6 million Africans from the 7th to 19th centuries. All right. So, again, we'll average that out to 5 million. So, they stole 5 million whites, 5 million blacks, 10 million slaves for the Ottomans and the Turks.
Wait, I thought that was art. Why is she back up?
All kinds of fun. How many do we do again here in America? Oh, 450,000.
No, Max is old and she backed up.
Yeah, we're the bad guys.
Idiot.
Nobody complains about the Muslims. There were black slave owners and slave traders, correct. Look, Corpse Grinder said a true thing. Might be worth looking up why the Marines came about. Yeah, the Marines came about because the was it Tripoli? It's in their thing. To the shores of Tripoli, because the Barbary pirates, the Ottoman Barbary pirates, were capturing American ships and enslaving their people. And when they were asked why they were doing it, because America had never had any problem with the Muslims said, because that's what we do. You're infidels. We take you as slaves. That's what we do. Bye. The African slave trade came from their enemies and tribes around them, just like the Old Testament days. I like how you're trying to correlate the two. You missed the comment before your son, Mike. His granddad. Oh, sorry. I remember hearing about a missionary who was growing a pineapple, and the local people stole it, and he was so sad. And the Lord said, "Give the pineapple to me, then I'll make something good of it." Interesting. Walking the Spirit says, "Corpse, black slave owners and traders doesn't make race-based slavery okay, though." I don't think he was making that argument. Just to defend Corpse Grinder for the one true thing he said today. No African slaves came to England. We don't like their sort. Now you're just importing all of the Africans and the Muslims, right? And when the locals realized he wasn't upset anymore. They asked why. He said it wasn't in his pineapple anymore. He gave it to God. They freaked out because they didn't want to steal from a god. I didn't know that 3%. Now you know. I knew most went to Brazil crossing the Atlantic. Yeah, Brazil was a big one. Why is my brain farting? The islands. Caribbeans. The Caribbeans were big. Brazil was big. Those were the closest ports, I guess. I would guess less than 3 because the ancient world, it was the norm, not seen as an atrocity like now, post-American slavery abolishment. Right. Which that's 3%. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was 3% of the bad. 3% of the bad, and we get all the blame for it. So they asked how to find forgiveness from his God, and everyone ended up getting saved. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw a video of this tribe, this little tribe that got saved, and they were so... The whole tribe got saved. And they wanted to be baptized so bad. They literally, this is like in the middle of the desert in Africa, like this tribe that had like very little access to water. So they dug a ditch and they traveled like bucket by bucket. They had to go like, I don't know, 2 miles or something to a water source. And why didn't they all just go to the water source? Anyways, that would have made more sense to me. I'm engineer mind. They brought and they filled it 1 bucket at a time, and then the whole tribe got baptized. I mean, that was cute, but now my mind just goes, why don't you just take the whole tribe to the water source and do it there? Maybe they didn't want to contaminate the water source because that's their water for drinking. I don't know. The only law is don't get caught. Spoken like a Christian youth pastor. Were you not listening? That's. I was raised agnostic, Olivia. Oh, by the way, thanks for showing up like 5 minutes before the stinking show ends. Oh, actually, am I? No, I'm not that far behind the chat. I was raised agnostic. I know what it means to be under no moral law.
Like a paradox.
Just don't get caught. That's what I learned as an agnostic youth. Don't get caught. That's why having a moral law above you, being held accountable to God, is a far better way to run a life and a society. Because otherwise, all the smart agnostic atheist kids are going to come to the same conclusion I did. Because really, with no moral law above you, with no moral lawgiver holding you to account, the only thing that can hold you account is
You just use that now?
is the law of man. And if you don't get caught, there is no law. That is the logical, rational, and only conclusion for the atheist agnostic worldview. And I was an agnostic when I came to that conclusion. So you can't be like, oh, spoken like a Christian youth pastor.
Oh my gosh, please hold, please.
So, anyways, that's a good way to end it. It's been an hour. Oh, I am way behind in the chat. I did not. Holy cow. I'm sorry. Cripes. That's a lot.
We actually have like stupid healers.
All right.
We had 3 healers and I was not.
Oh, there were probably people who couldn't make that trip, so it
Oh.
would actually be better to bring the water back if you want ever. That's true. That's true. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Join the Discord. Did somebody drop the Discord link?
Jeez, I wonder why we're.
You think everything's fake, Corpse Granite, because you're a cynic.
Because we're not getting healed.
That's all right. God bless you guys. We'll see you on the next amazing episode of Cross Examinations.